coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson.
Unbelievable finish.
It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loba is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe. The Audis win here on this outside line. Neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron. Drag race to the line. It's so close to call. The Monster Mile is a track of no remorse, a track that takes no prisoners, and tonight, one driver will find a way to tame the sacred beast. Live from the Dover International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to KBRN's live coverage of the iSCAR KBRN Street Stock Tour. A little different looking booth for tonight's action, but nonetheless, the entertainment will be second to none. With Dewey Schramm and Charlie Baier, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Well, we've already got one race in the books in this season. We've already had Iowa down covered already, and we pretty much got over that race, and that was a wild ride. Charlie, what does it take for these drivers to really take control of the monster tonight?
Yeah, this track is tough. There's not a lot of room to work with, much less than Iowa, in which we went to the first race, in which we went there for the first race. So a lot less room to work with, a very tight racetrack. So I would expect this to be no less wild, or even wilder than the first race of the season.
Dude.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Well, it's all good.
Well, just to start off with a bit, iSCAR street stocks, they're kind of sort of a crapshoot most of the time, but either way, there's going to be a lot of excitement here. Of course, a lot of these guys through official and NIS and other iSCAR series, a lot of them should be familiar with Dover at this point, but something different about this race compared to others is these guys are going to be able to probably run full throttle through most of the turns, at least for a good portion of this race before the tires start to wear out. So there's a whole new element that's going to be added here that we don't usually see at a track like Dover. So something that they'll have to adapt to and get used to as this race goes on.
For sure, but something that's not a new element for this Street Stock series is that we're not completely unfamiliar with this track in general. In Season 7, just about 3 seasons ago, the iSCAR Stock Series visited this track once. It was a 45-lap event. Anthony Burrows was the race winner. We have a whole different setup this time around. It's the same track, same car, but we have a way longer race, and we have a lot more drivers in the session. Charlie, what do you really expect coming from the fact that this is a bigger race, a longer race? You think there might be some fuel strategy or something notable that could take away from this race?
Yeah, I think this race, in the first couple laps of the run, I think this will be closely compared to Charlotte, which was our season closer. I think we're going to see a lot of pack-type racing, but, you know, as we start to reach the 15-lap mark in the run, and when those tires start to wear down, people are going to have to start lifting, and that's going to start to spread out the field. But that is if we get a long green flag run. So, yeah, it'll be challenging for these drivers to keep them straight.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the fuel level is for tonight, but yeah, as you mentioned, the Season 7 race here was 45 laps, and we've got 55 on our hands tonight. So if we do end up getting a green flag run, which I don't know if I'm expecting, but it's still in the realm of possibilities, fuel is definitely going to be a concern in addition to any possible tire wear. But yeah, at least for these early runs, like I said before, the full throttle is going to be pretty much a no-brainer, but once the tires start to kick in, you're going to see a lot of different racing strategies go on.
That is for sure. And strategy is going to be a huge factor in this race. We have a longer race tonight. And really with that length, I really feel like the tire wear on this abrasive track, especially combined with the fuel strategy in these cars and how much they hold, will really play a factor into how interesting this race will become. Continuing our pre-race coverage, we're going to go over the point standings. The perfect time to go over that after race one. It's going to be shown in the middle of your screen. Hunter Johnson with 42 points. He is the points leader. Michael Bianchini right behind him, 8 points behind, along with Andy McDowell. Then goes Liam Sheen, Aaron Mulrooney, Blaze McKinney, Cindy, KP Windsor, Sartaj Mann, Mitch Hobbs, and Regan McCauley rounds out the top 10. And it's already been one race. We've already got that set in stone. And now that these points are kind of filed in, Hunter Johnson was the dominant car last week. He led pretty much every single lap to the checkered flag. And really that was a dominant race for him. And also a wild one for a lot of drivers near the rear of the field. And Charlie, you were part of this race as well. And you saw what kind of went there from the driver's perspective. How did that really fare out, especially that you could take away from that could possibly implement into tonight's event?
Yeah, I think one of the key factors of the Iowa race was just holding the bottom. And, you know, there's something about that bottom lane that was just so dominant. And if you try to stick it on the outside, it was just tough to get a run. And, you know, it was nearly impossible to make a run on the outside. So I think the bottom, just like every other track in the street stocks, is going to be really dominant tonight. And if you want to make a pass, you got to get under someone on the bottom. So bottom. That's all I'm going to be talking about tonight. And yeah.
Yeah, the bottom seems to be the theme of most short tracks, of course, in real life and in iRacing, and this is no exception to that, of course. Dover, mainly a low groove track, but you may see a couple guys try to make the middle or high side work, but they may not be that successful. But if I got one guy I'm keeping my eye on here for tonight's race, it's going to be that 48 of Michael Bianchini, of course. He survived all the mayhem last week, coming from the back of the pack to finish in second place. Currently in the top 5 in 4th place in our practice standing. So he's got a strong car going for it tonight. So we'll have to see if he can put together another great run for him and that whole team.
Yeah, that is true. And Michael Bianchini, again, you mentioned he is second in points right now. Of course, he had a great finish at Iowa in the first race of the season. He's looking to continue that right now and currently 4th on the practice board. So it's continuing that consistency for that 48 Lowe's Hitachi street stock for him tonight. A little bit of information before for Dover International Speedway before we get going. The track opened in 1969. It's a 1.02 mile track. Of course, 4 turns, a 39.39 feet elevation, so not too high up in the sky. We got a track temp about 106 degrees, of course, in Dover, Delaware. And I know that in the Max Speed TV broadcast, you're very infamous for the weather. So I'm going to hand it over to you so you can give us our little weather recap. What we got here?
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Our air temperature is 68 degrees here. We've got a partly cloudy sky. It's a pretty great day here for a race. Wind speed about 5 miles per hour, so a little bit of a breeze coming out of the northwest. Typical wind speed. No fog for tonight, of course. We do not run dynamic weather of the Street Stock series because that'd be insane. The humidity is about 1%, so it's pretty dry. But overall, we've got a great day shaping up here for some street stock racing here in the Mid-Atlantic.
It is, and you're looking at the warm-ups right now. We just got about a minute 30 before we get over this practice session. And you're looking at Connor Brennan, the Prox guy, at the top of the board. Nick Miller, Joe Berge, the top 3 right now. We have more than 35 drivers in this race right now. You're looking at the drivers taking their laps around and just kind of goofing around before we head green. And really an interesting thing. We got called up fairly quickly about this broadcast, and I know that we're not used to being a part of this on exactly KBRN for the iSCAR series, but you know, it's still a fun opportunity, and we're going to have a lot of fun here at Dover. You're seeing a bunch of drivers breakdancing across the track, having a little bit of fun before we get down to the qualifying, where they'll take things a little more seriously, get their fastest 2 laps in, and that'll be the starting grid right now. But before we get really anything set for this race tonight, before we take the green flag, you guys really got any predictions? Is there anyone you're really looking out for?
Well, I've got my eye on the 83 of Joe Berge. He came up just short in the Legend Series race back on Sunday night. He was leading at the white flag and unfortunately got turned in that huge last lap incident. And he's come really close quite a few times, and I hope tonight he can finally pull it off.
Yeah, and let's see here. We have a lot of good drivers up here tonight. A lot of guys who are really talented in these street stock machines. So my pick is going to have to be, like Dewey mentioned earlier, Michael Bianchini is a really good pick, but I'm going to have to go with that 9 of Nick Miller. He's really good in the street stock. He showed that strength last season. I think he'll be up there definitely tonight.
Well, I think if there's anyone I'm looking for right now is the man who dominated last week. That was Hunter Johnson, and he's currently 5th on the board right now, so he's still not out of the woods just yet. So I think Hunter Johnson might pick his way through the field just a little bit, and he'll be able to take the checkered flag for the 2nd time this season. Practice is just about over. Qualifying has just begun. They'll take their fastest 2 laps around this Dover International Speedway, and we'll see the starting grid. But before that, the track ceremonies are happening on the track right now, and that means we're going to take down trackside as we perform the national anthem. Oh, I just realized that these... We are ready to bring you all the action from the Dover International Speedway here for the iSCAR KBRN Street Stock Tour. You're looking at a handful of drivers getting their qualifying laps in. Currently, Michael Bianchini at the top of the board. He just set his fastest lap, a 27.176, I believe so. And a handful of drivers are taking their rounds around this tough track. And about this track is a different challenge. Again, I mentioned at the top of the show that we have been here before. It's not completely unfamiliar, but I know there's a lot of new in this field that probably haven't been around for that season 7 race, and this is probably their first turn around this Dover International Speedway. And especially with the way these cars handle, it's more or less, it's very understeery in the first handful of laps when you're getting the car kind of warmed up, and then as soon as you do that, the car tends to be a little more forgiving, tends to be a little more comfortable with what you're doing with it. But especially at this track where the wall comes up so quick, I feel like we might see a trouble spot somewhere in this track. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And that wall jumps at you pretty quickly. It reminds me of the backstretch wall in Richmond Raceway. It'll pop at you pretty quick, and if you're not aware of it, you'll be in the wall, and next thing you know, almost the entire field will get knocked up because it's just such a thin racetrack. And that back straightaway, both straightaways are on an angle, so yeah, this track is pretty sketchy for sure. So I'm expecting a pretty wild race tonight.
Yeah, you see right there, even just running a qualifying lap, you saw Cade McKee get a bit loose there on the apron, but fortunately able to keep it going. even though that will slow him down a bit. But yeah, between the two straightaways, I think out of turn 2 is definitely going to be the biggest trouble spot we'll see tonight. You could even go on YouTube and just search up NASCAR crashes at Dover, and you'll see the exact same thing. So this race will be no different. And on top of managing tire conservation and managing your fuel, you've also got to try and race the track as much as you are the other drivers.
That is definitely true. You're looking at a handful of drivers getting their laps in. You saw Brian Mullen, who's up and over. He already got his qualifying time set, so he's fine in terms of that. And Michael Bianchini continues to stay at the top of the board. You have Hunter Johnson, Aaron Maroney. That'll be your top 3. And as qualifying continues to wide down, that means we are to bring you the starting grid once everyone starts to grid onto the pit road. And that'll mean we will get to the starting grid and find out where everyone stands when it comes to tonight's event here at the Dover International Speedway in the Monster Mile. You're looking at the aerial shot right now as the drivers start to grid. We are ready to bring you that starting grid as everyone starts to form on the racetrack. It'll show right on your screen as we get to the starting grid.
Hold on, just a second.
Yeah, we're having
There
a
we
little
go.
bit of... Yeah, there we go.
Oh, wow.
Michael Bianchini with the fastest time, a 27.146. He lines on the pole tonight. He was one of the picks. He was one of the drivers to watch for second in points. Right alongside him, the man who dominated Iowa last week and led every single lap, looking for a second win, is Hunter Johnson.
Starting on row number 2, Aaron Maroney driving for Evo SimSport tonight. Under that banner, sitting right behind the leader, Michael Bianchini. And to his outside, Chase Bonser, Proximity Racing, Chevy Camaro. To his outside, starting 4th.
And in row number 3, we've got last year's IMSA GT3 champion, Corey H. Hartz, and to his outside, Kenneth's pick, Nick Miller.
Coming into row number 4, you'll find the proximity driver of Connor Brandon in the 92. He is joined alongside by the 58 of Dominic Howell. Those two proximity teammates, they'll line up in row 4.
And Liam Sheen, strong last week and strong this week as well. Currently sitting 9th on the grid here in that 44 car. And to his outside, Brandon Moore was that 82 machine, rounding out your top 10.
And in row number 6, the 08 of Dylan Basin and the 41 of Christopher Weil.
We'll scroll through the rest of the running order, and you'll see where everyone stands when it comes to this 37-car field and entry list for tonight's event. And while we're looking at this starting grid, I'm already seeing a huge change as to what I saw last week at Iowa. Last week, if you watched last week's broadcast on Max Speed TV for this series, you saw Hunter Johnson up at front. Then you saw a lot of PPM right behind him, practically surrounding him for pretty much the entire race. What I'm seeing a lot more proximity drivers. I'm seeing, of course, Aaron Maroney, who's here. I'm seeing Michael Bianchini, who's now in this little pack, and he'll start on the front row. So it's a way different starting order than what we saw last week. But of course, the racing will be intense as always. So the field will slowly head off of pit road. The car will line all of them up 2 by 2, all rows deep. We'll finally take the green flag if we do this time by. I'm very infamous with jumping the green flag too early. So hopefully this, I believe we're taking 1 to green if I'm not mistaken. If we take the green flag, I'll get it this time. I'll try. All right, so we'll be taking the green here. So, okay, I didn't jump it. So at least I made sure before we got to the green flag.
No, just
so,
make sure we're at Dover this week.
I have faith in you. We're good.
All right.
Yeah, all right. All right, Michael Bianchini, Hunter Johnson will lead the field to the green flag. And once that 48 mashes on the gas pedal under his discretion, we'll take the green flag. Off of turn 4, we are underway for round number 2, the iSCAR KBRN Street Stock Series.
Yeah, red car didn't get going on the inside. I'm not exactly sure who that was. Might have been Dylan Basin, but he just did not go on the start, and he dropped at least 5 or 6 spots there.
Michael Bianchini has a bit of a lead here, almost fanning out 3 wide down the back straightaway. Oh boy, and as you see, a lot of the guys who start on the outside are starting to fan back and try to drop in line. So like I said, this inside is pretty dominant. As you can see, Michael Bianchini almost all the way down to the apron. But yeah, he leads lap number 1 here.
Really clean through lap 1. I was expecting a whole different outcome from there, but you're looking at the 48 of Michael Bianchini. He takes the race lead, but Hunter Johnson right behind him with Aaron Mulrooney. Those three are stuck together like glue coming into turn number 3, and they're all lined up together. You see a battle for 4th heating up between, I believe that is, I think I can't really see who that is right now, but they are battling. Okay, Nick Miller, there he is behind them, and they seem to battle too wide in turn 1.
And you see Corey H. Hartz in that 77 car got shoved up to the outside, and you see he is falling all the way back, almost like a cup car in Martinsville. And yeah, these guys are fanning out all the way to the bottom here. This is good racing here early on. We got a yellow flag on the racetrack.
Yellow flag, yeah. Dewey, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one of those early yellows, typically we see those at short tracks, and here is no different, but there it is. Andy McDowell's in there, Liam Sheen in there, 2 PPM cars already in this. So those straightaways, you guys called it. I gotta wonder if one of them might have tagged that wall at turn 4.
Yeah, we'll get a replay of this really quickly here.
See what happened. It was between these two, and I think it might have started with that 20 of Andy McDowell coming off of turn 4. We'll just see. I think, yeah, he got a shot from the 77. That's Corey H. Hartz, and I think, yeah, the 44 just trying to get around was collected in that as well, and you see the field scrambling to get around. Not a lot of room here at Dover, so if you're trying to really get around the wreck, you really have to work that race car in order to find the right space to go around if a wreck happens. And we'll take another look. There it is, the shot from the 77, the 44 trying to avoid it, goes up the wall, spins around, another shot right there to the 20 car as well.
I think that was Scott Yost right there that got into him.
Yeah, that was.
85.
Scott Yost involved in that as well. So an early yellow, I was expecting a lap 1 wreck off of turn 2, and you mentioned it, Dewey, where turn 2 is so treacherous, and you thought that was going to be the trouble spot. I think we saw that off of turn 4 this time around. I thought it was going to be earlier, but I think it was a little cleaner than what I expected, to be honest.
Yeah, and you know, I was really surprised. That was really good racing. It almost, you know, it really reminded me of Daytona, how they all, you know, immediately jump down to the bottom, or like Indy cars at Indianapolis. They just want to defend that bottom because they know if someone even sticks a bumper down there, you're going to get shuffled all the way back. And we saw early on in that run, Corey Hartz got shuffled up, and he started going after the back. Luckily, he found a spot in line, but yeah, it kind of reminds me of short track racing mixed with super speedway. So yeah, this track car combo is really interesting, but it's really good so far.
Yeah, the monster did not take very long to pick and choose who its victims are going to be tonight, and for right now, it looks like Andy McDowell and Liam Sheen, the first of those. But yeah, that was a pretty big team killer, of course. Those 2 cars, PPM and Corey H. Hartz, got a piece as well. So that PPM team's got a little bit of work to do now to get themselves back into this race.
And PPM knows their way to victory lane in the Street Stock Series. Corey H. Hartz in the season closer picked up the victory at Charlotte. So, yeah, he's running pretty well here. Currently sitting 6th place, just right outside the top 5. So, I would expect another pretty a decent run from him.
We talk about Liam Sheen, and Liam Sheen had one of the more dominant runs Iowa last week in the first round of this series. So, it's already a tough break for him, and it looks like the monster put a dent in his race car for now. But he's not out of the woods just yet. If he can get that damage repaired, he's pretty much good. He can maintain himself, and pretty much the aero doesn't play too much of a factor at a track like this. The track is not very large, so the aerodynamics won't really play a factor in terms of the speed of the race car. It's just a matter of how that 44 handles with that damage, and whether it's drastically different than what happened when the race went green. Just a reminder that iSCAR continues to work itself and its schedule. Tomorrow will be the iSCAR Modified Tour. That is the Tolsma Designs Modified Tour. That'll be tomorrow at Myrtle Beach. That starts at 7:35 p.m. Eastern, and then we work our way into Friday, the Trey Shuttlesworth IndyCar Series. That'll be next week from the Glen. So MaxSpeed TV will give you the coverage for that as well. Then Saturday will be the July 4th edition of the Corey Hartz Media Super Speedway Challenge. That'll be Truck Series at the Truck Cars at Talladega. So that's also going to be a fun event to watch. And then Sunday, we round the week out with the Yost Auto Sales Legend Series. So another interesting. So it's pretty much content worth all week long, and starting with this one, and then it continues on through the rest of the week. And I'm really excited for that July 4th race, considering the fact that it's such a special day And iSCAR is going to the super speedway with the super speedway shootout and the guys in that series. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit of a replacement for what the NASCAR Cup Series doesn't have anymore. Of course, they raced on July 4th weekend at Daytona for the longest time, and of course, they are now at Indianapolis this weekend. So we've still got a bit of a super speedway flair here for the 4th of July, and hopefully you guys will tune into that. And a bit of a side note as well, the Watkins Glen race for the IndyCar Series will be utilizing the boot configuration, so that'll certainly be interesting to watch as well.
Yeah,
Quickly
go ahead.
Go ahead, Charlie.
No, you go ahead.
Just going to note, if you want to ask any question and join the conversation in the YouTube chat, you can do so using hashtag AskKBRN. You can ask any questions to us in the booth about anything in general, about the race, about what we think about tonight's race, and pretty much anything in general. So if you want to ask any question, just put hashtag AskKBRN with your question following right after. We'll be sure to answer all of those questions once you put them down. And Charlie, I'm going to let you speak and get this green flag coverage in as we go green with Michael Bianchini and Hunter Johnson in the front rows. We work down the back straightaway.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing about iSCAR, but I do have a question for you, Kenneth. What track are we at?
We are at Dover International Speedway. I'm getting this right. The Monster Mile. I'll use it. I'll use that memory to my advantage and get that right this time around. I know if you watched last week's LWRC coverage, I really messed that up with Atlanta, because I thought it was, I don't know, I had Iowa in my head, and then it kind of came out of my mouth as soon as the white flag and the checkered flag got sent out. But we are ready to go green here at Dover. Michael Bianchini and Hunter Johnson lead the field to green. We are green for the first restart here at Dover.
And they start to file back in line. Those guys on the outside just want to jump in immediately. So Hunter Johnson's been sticking to that 48's back bumper for the first few laps here, and we should expect him to do that again. So yeah.
Yeah, if this race was held a couple months ago, those top three would all be proximity cars, and looks like we've got another caution here on the track. We'll have to see what this caution consists of for drivers. Looks like a couple guys towards the back.
Yeah, those are shots of the 06 of Mobile One Racing entry. You saw the 46 of Dane Cruz, and we're still trying to find out what exactly went down on lap 9 to trigger this yellow this evening. I think we'll just take the replay and see exactly what went down. It happened near the rear of the field. It didn't any action that really triggered the yellow from there, and I think I saw someone in the wall from that aerial shot on the back straightaway.
Trying to get a view of the car on track. It's not letting me. It's well, we saw it back there. A car spun out. I'm trying to. Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll try to give you that. We'll try to give you that replay if we can of that driver. Sometimes it can get the best shots of some of the drivers, as the internet sometimes doesn't really function as well with iRacing, and that can cause a little bit of blinking on the racetrack. But we got an Ask KBRN question from Max is Fabulous. Asks, how come Kenneth doesn't replace Zeke? Well, Zeke, the only reason Zeke is not broadcasting tonight from MSTV is mostly because of his job. He has some personal things to work with his job, so he wasn't able to bring the broadcast to you, and that's why we're doing this tonight. But I'm not replacing Zeke anytime soon. Zeke is the man at Max Speed TV with iSCAR, so he's going to continue doing that. And of course, all due respect to Zeke, he puts on great broadcasts, and of course, without him, you know, iSCAR really wouldn't be on the platform of Max Speed TV to begin with. And we got another question from Gabriel Allen. Asks, do you think Klein will finish in the top 20, Dewey?
You know what? I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to say yes.
All right, Charlie, who do you got? You think Klein will make his way into the top 10 this evening?
Yeah, sure, why not? He has a bit of front end damage, I see, but you know, if he can keep it clean, and I guess just hoping for a wreck in front of him, if he makes it there, then sure.
Yeah, that happened, dude. Yeah, Dover is insane. Dewey, I'll let you go ahead.
I was going to say, Klein. Oh, we've got a spinner on pit road here.
That's Brian Mullen. Oh my gosh.
Flipped over on pit road.
Boy, that is odd. Brian Mullen goes flipping on pit road. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know whether he pit stall. Maybe he was just trying to e-brake it into the pit stall, and then that kind of just, he was around there. Okay, I'm not sure how to describe that one. That was just an odd scenario there for that 17 of Brian Mullen. And we weren't sure where he was running prior to that pit stop, and he must have gotten damage from the last caution, so that might be why he was down pit road. But if he decided to just flip it over and let the pit crew kind of replace the tires from upside down, then so be it, I guess.
Yeah,
so we are on.
Yeah, the unconventional pit stop, I guess. But yeah, I was gonna mention Matthew Klein did pick up his first. Maybe of course it was unofficial, but still an iSCAR win. Took the checkered flag in one of the super speedway heats last season, so he's had a bit of recent success. And it looks like Bianchini is going to pit here from the lead, so this is a really interesting strategy call from that 48 to give up the lead. And it looks like that 9 of Nick Miller, oh, we got some pranking going on. He will not pit, but it looked like him and Nick were both going to pit. A little bit of a mind games going on here.
Yep, and looks like the pace car is going to cross here, and that might be the 2 to green. Pace car lights are not off, and so we'll go around 2 more times, and then we'll go back green flag racing here. And yeah, these caution depths are a bit long here at Dover.
Yeah, with the new iRacing update, they kind of enhanced how the cautions work here at the shorter tracks. They maintain the same, and and we kind of wish it would be the same as how they added to the super speedways, where they made the cautions a little bit faster considering how big those tracks are. But even with this short track, these cautions continue to take long, and how slow you're going on the racetrack, you really want to head green as soon as possible. As you're looking on board with the 12 of Hunter Johnson, he was the man who led every single lap last week at Iowa. He's looking to continue his dominant performance here at Dover, and he's just got to get around that 48 in order to do so, and he's got a lot of laps to do it. He's got about 42 laps to get it done, so still a long way to go here at Dover. 55 laps, and I think that'll be enough to secure a pitch strategy in terms of the tires and the fuel. We saw Hunter Johnson and Nick Miller fake out in pit road, but maybe at some point, if we get a longer green flag run, or if we have another stretch, that could mean that they'll be going down for real for those tires and the fuel, and really secure that in terms of fuel strategy. And we got the 1 to green signal right now from the pace car, so that means we will go one more time around the track. We'll take the green flag for the 3rd time tonight with Hunter Johnson, Michael Bianchini, then goes Aaron Mulrooney, Nick Miller. Looks like the 81 of Chase Bonser will round out the top 5 right now. A lot of proximity drivers up here.
Yeah, and speaking of yellow flags, we have another Ask KBRN here for another one from Gabe. He asks, how many more yellows do you think we will have? So I'll let you guys answer that first.
Oh, yikes. Well, we've reached 2 in the first 15 laps, and I think, as this race goes on, I think we'll get a couple more, a longer green flag runs. So I think we'll get about, maybe 4, maybe 3, 4, 5 yellows, and, a relatively clean race that I'm expecting for sure, but especially for this league. But yeah, I think we'll get a good amount of green flag laps.
Well, here we go to find out if we get those green flag laps in. Hunter Johnson, Michael Bianchini will continue to lead the front row. They'll take the green flag one more time. We'll go green on lap number 15.
They're fanning out almost 4 wide back there. As back up front, once again, Michael Bianchini gets the jump.
Yeah, and that same red car that didn't go on the initial start looks like didn't go again. So I wonder if there's a bit of a shifting issue going on with, I think that's still in Basin, but hopefully that's something he can get squared away before this race is over.
Yeah, you saw the red car didn't get the best jump on the start as he wanted, but they're pretty much single file all the way through, and not anymore. Here comes the 12 of track. He'll try to take the position away from the 48 side by side, and here at Dover, it's pretty much a 1-lane racetrack. You can't really make that outside lane work too well, and here comes Aaron Mulrooney with the jump.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen someone try to jump down low for the race lead, and you see those 3 cars on the bottom, maybe 4 if Nick Miller gets in line. Looks like 3 wide there, but the 48 is going to shuffle back all the way to the end of the top 5. You see Nick Miller going under for 3rd place.
Yeah, Nick trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. He just got by Bianchini. Now he's looking for that 3rd spot beneath the 81 of Chase Bonsner, and as now Bianchini tries to get back on the bottom, but washes up a little bit, so he's now back up on that outside. And Mulrooney right on Hunter Johnson's bumper, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see another quick lead change.
Maroney and Hunter Johnson, the two stronger cars at Iowa last week, but somebody we really didn't see who struggled all night was that 9 of Nick Miller. He really didn't have the week, and he really wants some redemption this time around to shoot him up the point standings. Also Chase Bonser behind him. They pretty much formed a single file line, but that draft is playing a huge factor. These guys are pretty much always going full throttle around this racetrack. You see the driver slide up the racetrack. Hunter Johnson continues to lead, but Aaron Mulrooney falling right behind.
2 SPG drivers and 2 proximity drivers in the top 4. Obviously, the 2 proximity drivers being Hunter Johnson and Chase Bonser, and stuck in a proximity sandwich is Aaron Mulrooney. Stuck in a proximity sandwich is Aaron Mulrooney and Nick Miller. And here comes PPM in those bright yellow cars fighting for a top 5 spot, trying to get by Michael Bianchini.
Yeah, and Bianchini is still trying to work on that 81 of Chase. We got 2 PPM cars right behind those 2. I believe that's Liam Sheen on the bottom, as they're blocking all the way down to the apron here into turn number 1 is Hunter Johnson and Aaron Mulrooney. Nick Miller firmly in 3rd place now, and those two PPM cars still side by side, but it looks like the back one will now file in line.
Liam Sheen works his way to 6th after the damage from the wreck early on in the race, and we got another caution on the racetrack, and we'll see what happened near the rear of the field. Looks to be, not sure, I think we saw somebody up near the wall. I don't see any significant damage from these drivers as of right now, so not sure. We got a driver down pit road. He might have been the culprit this time, but I think we'll just take the replay and see exactly what happened here. We haven't been able to cover the cautions too much tonight, but we'll try our best to get that for you with the KBRN replay. And we were under that green flag run for a while, and we really were able to see how the draft really plays a factor and how much that inside lane is so dominant here at this track. And that multi-groove racing really isn't there. At Iowa, it was. At Iowa, you saw how much that affected the racing here, and really at Dover, it is the complete opposite. They're trying to get the replay. There looks to be no trouble around here.
Yeah, I apologize. This is probably the biggest field I've ever broadcast, and my graphic settings have not been adjusted to see all the cars on screen. So those cars way in the back who were obviously might have gotten in some trouble there, probably, I don't know, they're not loaded in, is what I'm saying. So we apologize for that.
Well, we see Connor Brandon is a lap down, and Ibrahim Bijani is 6th, so those 2 could be the cause of these incidents, but Bijani, with being 6 laps down, he potentially could have been the previous incident. But it looks like they had a couple cars on pit road here under this caution flag. I believe I saw Joe Burgee down there among a few others, so we're almost at the halfway point here tonight, and there you see about 5 or 6 cars all on there. There's Burgee coming off, so perhaps some early strategy starting to come into effect, and of course, I'm sure these guys are also taking 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, and the thing about pit stops under caution is really the strategy is, especially in a street stock series with a very huge field, if you're up front, if you're within the top 20 or top 15, basically you don't pit, because if you pit and nobody else does, you're going to be all the way in the back, and you have to go through almost a complete brick wall of cars to try to even make it back into the top 15. So, I've raced in this series before at Thompson and Charlotte, and really, you really don't pit all race, because if you do, you're going to be shuffled all the way to the back.
Charlie, that's a great point, because Hunter Johnson did not pit entirely through that race at Iowa last week. Michael Bianchini now, who was the race leader, he is now on pit road, so he's going to get his service done as well. But I was talking about Hunter Johnson. Hunter Johnson didn't pit the entirety of the race last week, and he was able to keep himself up front, and he led every single lap, and he ended up winning the race dominantly over the likes of Blaze McKinney and the rest of them in that line of order, including Michael Bianchini, who found himself there at the end of the race. And Aaron Mulrooney took a different pit strategy. It worked out a little bit for him. He got into a little bit of incident, so that's one of the reasons why he went down pit road. But ever since he did last week, he was able to work himself back up into that top 5, and that really worked well for him. But that's something we'll see. Michael Bianchini down pit road, that could be a possible strategy that could work later in this run, especially if we have a longer run.
Yeah, that's kind of odd. He was in a pretty good spot. I guess there's some unknown reason for that. I bet he has a reason for that, but we just don't know it. So, yeah, that's going to put him all the way in the back.
Yeah, he's definitely got his work cut out for him now. Of course, Dover, not the easiest of tracks to make passes on, so with him starting probably around 30th or so, he's really going to have his work cut out to get back up there. We've got another Ask KBRN question from fan Trey Shuttlesworth. Why aren't you screaming incoherently every 5 seconds?
Well, I mean, I was expecting to be incoherently screaming every 5 seconds, considering the fact that this racetrack is so treacherous. I was expecting to see larger wreck with people like flying into the air like we saw in the practice session, but we haven't seen that so far. So I don't think we've seen the screaming just yet. But I think we might get to that sooner.
I'm not really
I'm trying
complaining.
to save my voice a little bit, prepare myself for that.
I'm not really complaining. This has been really good racing under the green flag. Those guys, using almost all the racetrack they can to defend their positions, especially up front for the race lead. So, yeah, I'm not complaining at all. I think it's a really good race we have going on so far.
Yeah, for sure. I think this race in the first 24 or so laps we've done so far has been about the same, if not better, in terms of racing quality as we saw last week at Iowa. And something we also saw at Iowa last week were a lot of caution laps, which of course went into Hunter Johnson's benefit, because the more caution laps they ran, the less wear his tires got. So we'll have to watch for that as well here tonight. If we have a big stretch where we just get caution after caution, Hunter will be able to save his tires much better. But if we do end up with a long green flag run, we'll have to see if Bianchini's strategy call works out.
Well, we'll just have to see once they take the green flag. We have the 1 to green signal, so that means we'll take one more time around. We'll take the green flag with Hunter Johnson, Aaron Mulrooney. First time he's in the front row tonight. He'll be starting on the outside with Nick Miller behind him. Chase Bonser peeking into the top 5. He'll start on the outside of row 2. Then goes the 2 PPM entries who were involved in the first caution, Corey Hartz and Liam Sheen, with another round of blue PPM cars behind them. That is Andy McDowell and I believe, I'm trying to look at the number there. I believe that's the 49 of Sartaj. Come on, correct me if I'm mistaken there. Yes, it is. That's the 22 and the 49. They're both together in the blue PPM cars and the neon PPM cars right in front of them. So there's a little pack of them right now, and they're urging to get to that top 5 and pretty much complete the dominance they've had in that first race and really translate it into the second race. But we'll just have to find out. As soon as the pace car dives down pit road, he will do so. And once the 12 mashes on that gas pedal under his discretion, we'll take the green flag. Back green on lap number 26, Hunter Johnson with an early lead.
Yeah, and it is a team cluster in the top 8 or so. You see 3 dominant teams up there, very strong performances between all of them in iSCAR in general. But you see Hunter Johnson has about a 5-car length lead. They're going to jump up on him once they get back to him.
Yeah, Chase Bonser's going to have a bit of a time here trying to get back to the bottom, as they're currently 3 wide now for 3rd place, as we have a caution once again out on the racetrack. We'll have to see who this one involves. And looks like another one of those quick ones. So for Hunter Johnson's tires, definitely something he would need.
Well, I think I saw that burgundy car that you saw down pit road. I think that driver might have been involved again. That driver was down pit road getting the service, and the car didn't look too beat up as it does right now on pit road. So I think that might have been the culprit this time around. I mean, of course, we've had struggles trying to find what has happened on the racetrack in terms of getting these cars when they get into trouble and turn and spin around and trigger those yellows. So I think it's just another opportunity to try and work that around again. You see a couple drivers faking down pit road. Looks to be no takers in the top couple of rows. I don't think we have anyone trying to pit. And you mentioned that, Charlie, how crucial it is to stay out under these yellows, especially if you're in the top 15 with this large field. You really have a lot of work cut out for you, and Michael Bianchini currently in that situation.
Yeah, and that yellow was just another situation. Graphic settings, it only shows a max of 25 cars on the racetrack, so we can't see further back than that, and that's where all the wrecks have been happening. So again, we apologize for not getting that replay for you, where this is probably the biggest field that we've ever done. So, yeah, like you said, pitting, staying out is obviously crucial. I finished second to that 2-car of Aaron Mulrooney at Thompson last season, and You know, we all stayed out the entire race. None of us had any pit strategy, and you know, again, that was a one-lane racetrack, and that lane was actually the outside. So that's kind of different for these street chalks.
Yeah, we've hit about the halfway point here tonight in the next couple laps, and yeah, Bianchini really hasn't been able to get anywhere despite having those fresher tires. With all these quick cautions, there really haven't been much by way of opportunities to try and pass, but those PPM cars still have a big stranglehold on the back half of this top 10, and I'm curious to see if they can try to make their way up into the front half of this top 10 before this thing's over.
Yeah, that short caution really didn't bring out the best of Michael Bianchini on that run, so he really wasn't able to make those passes. And PPM, they're all still together. There's really pretty much no changes within this top 10 or so when it comes down to this running order and the cautions we've had tonight. Look at a couple rows deep, you'll find Kiloa Hankins in the 72. He was caught in a little bit of trouble at Iowa last week. He's looking to get a better run tonight, and so far he's kind of keeping himself a little stealthier this time around. I think that might be his little game plan when it comes to being there at the end of the race, and I think right now it's kind of working for him.
Yeah, and beyond the team cars that we've seen up front for most of the race, that's where it starts to get that's where it starts to shuffle, I should say, throughout the race, and these guys are shuffling a lot, but the top 10 has really stayed static throughout the run.
So now just 28 cars, I believe, now on the lead lap. So pretty much those troubles have been happening back there with the rest of the field, and right now it is kind of dwindling as it did it with Iowa. We had a lot of cut down in the field when those cautions started coming out and more drivers started to get involved, and we saw the drivers start to tick down, and then we saw a lower field count. And then that obviously changes the way the race happens, because when you see those drivers continuously get into wrecks, a lot of drivers start to back up a little bit. Maybe they're like, hey, maybe we don't want to be so aggressive. And then that could produce a longer green flag run if we see that tonight. But so far, it hasn't really been the trend at all. We've had a handful of cautions. You'll look at the caution graphic right in the middle of your screen to the right side. We'll have that show up. We've had 4 cautions tonight, 15 laps under the yellow flag. We've only had 3 lead changes, with Hunter Johnson in the race lead right now. Fastest lap of the race is held by Jackson Menchu with 26.899. He was a little bit back there in the field, so he set that fastest time with the draft, and we have 26 laps remaining in this event. So we'll take the 1 green signal, I believe this time by, if the pace car kind of cooperates with us here, so we can get another green flag tonight. But so far, we've kind of had a handful of yellows. Is there anything surprising you're seeing right now?
No, I'm surprised with the really good racing we've seen so far. Not that they're not capable of, because I'm sure a lot of these guys are really skilled and can run like that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying these green flag runs, but unfortunately these cautions are taking a bit of time.
For me, it seems a bit expected. You know, a lot of the street stock races, we typically see a lot of yellows bunched together like this, but the green flag runs that we have had tonight, as Charlie said, have produced some really good racing, and I kind of feel bad for Bianchini now, because I think he took tires to try and make a late race charge back up towards the front, and for right now, with all these yellows we keep having, he's just stuck back there. So hopefully that can work out for him, but for right now, he's got to deal with the hand he got dealt.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do when it comes to carving through the rest of this field. You see him all the way back there in the dark blue car on the inside row, so he'll start all the way back there, and hope this green flag run can enable him to pick up those positions he's lost down pit road, and we'll see if he can carve his way through the field. But right now, the people commanding the field, Hunter Johnson continues to do so, carrying on his speed from Iowa. Aaron Mulrooney to his outside. Then we'll have chase sponsor Nick Miller into row 2, and the 2 PPM guys right behind them. He'll mash on the gas pedal once more. Green from Dover.
Green.
Looks like Mulrooney wasn't able to get down to the bottom side, so he's going to be stuck up there on that outside line, as that'll put Chase Bonser now up into that second spot. Nick Miller to third, Hartz to fourth. Mulrooney's got to get down to the bottom quicker. He's going to start dropping like a rock.
Yeah, and that's a proximity 1-2 right there as Mulrooney starts to get shuffled back. And contact into the 9 car, and they go around the 81 and the 9. 2 car also involved, hard into the wall and into the air. That's the big one.
The big one.
Huge crash. Dominic Howell, Chase Sponsor. You see Ryan Kendrick, handful of drivers flipping over.
In there.
Yeah.
Dominic Howell up on his roof. There's the big one we were expecting to see, and that just took a lot of people out of this race.
We can get a replay of that one. That happened near the front with Aaron Maruti and Nick Miller. They both got into trouble, as long as Chase Sponsor as well. But we'll take the replay and see what happened on that restart. If Chase Sponsor all the way down to the bottom, it looked pretty harmless from that restart. Hunter Johnson got a great start, but then those guys were down there. And I think going into turn 1, I think might have... I'm not sure what happened there.
It was contact between the 9 and the 2. No, it was initial contact between the 81 and the 9 going into turn 3. It looks like he's gotten a shot from the rear end, and
yeah, there it goes. He gets sent loose, and then Nick Miller trying to avoid the 77 goes high, gets into the air. Mulrooney, and then Liam Sheen, Kilo Hankins, Dominic Howell piles in. Andy McDowell, the 08 involved as well. Kilo Hankins I saw was spinning down the front straightaway. Huge wreck. And what we were talking about the entire race about huge pack racing and the huge wrecks that we were expecting to see, it's already here now.
And, oh my gosh, that is huge.
William Schmidt in there as well, and that 79. And yeah, there's Liam Sheen flipping all over the place. You saw Chase flip onto pit road, and I'm not sure if Corey H. Hart's ever touched Nick Miller right here. I think that may have just gotten either net code or loose on his own. But it was really close either way, as we have an onboard here into turn 3. You see the contact up there. This is Hunter Rupp on the 61 we're on board with. And we'll see if he can...
Oh, my goodness.
Man.
Boy, that was
goodness.
To get around.
Wow.
Look at that car avoidance. Oh, my goodness.
That path cleared right in front of him, and he just sailed right through it. Oh, my gosh. What a wreck avoidance for that 61 car.
It's unfortunate for Chase that he flipped up in the air like that, but it was a blessing in disguise for Hunter Rupp, because if he hadn't flipped like that, he would have plowed right into him. So, man, what a wreck we see here, and the first time we've been able to see. And
look at this top 5 right now. Look how that shook up.
yeah, Kilo Hankins up there now. We didn't talk much about him all night. Now he's up in that 5th spot. And those PPM guys, I was just talking about them. Now they are up in that top 5. Corey H. Hart, Sartaj Maan, and Caden Atkins, all up in that mix now.
And Kilo Hankins he went around in that wreck. He was one of the drivers who took damage and was spinning down the front straightaway, and now he's in the top 5. So the magnitude of that wreck was so large that even a driver involved can stick in this top 5. And boy, that was intense. And we were mentioning Hunter Rupp. They kind of reminded me of Helio Castroneves' Scott Dixon moment at Indianapolis, where Helio Castroneves just kind of dove down as Scott Dixon was flying right over him. That's kind of reminiscent of what we saw right there with the 81 of Chase Sponsor. But that ends a lot of drivers' nights. You see the 27 of Cade McKee. He was involved. Huge damage to that street stock.
That car looks like an ARCA car at Auto Club with that back end sticking out.
He'll be leading the modified division with that car in the rest of the race.
Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be there tomorrow night.
Yeah, they'll be down at Myrtle Beach, which unfortunately in real life is closing soon. Hopefully they can reverse that and save that track, because Myrtle Beach is a really cool place. But yeah, on MSTV tomorrow night around 7 or 8 o'clock, you'll be able to catch those cars for 93 laps around the half mile down there. So be sure to tune in, as Cade's just doing something.
Yeah, he has to work with what he's got right now, and I'm not whether if he has that damage, you have to go down pit road. I think it might have not have been open just yet. I think it might be open now, so I think he'll be crawling his way, drifting sideways into the pit lane. He'll try to get as much of the damage fixed as possible. And you mentioned the modified race, the winner last week there, Aaron Marooney. He's not going to be much of a factor tonight, as he was involved in that huge wreck. That was big. We were talking about it the entire time, and then now it's finally arrived. And look at this top 5 now. I talked about Iowa and how the PPM drivers were surrounding Hunter Johnson. It's looking the same again once more.
Yeah, that is a sea of blue and I think yellow. Would you consider that yellow?
Yeah, like a neon yellow.
All right, well, yeah, that is
It's almost
a
like a
sea of
hard
blue
yellow.
and yellow, and you also see Keel Hankins under the SPM Racing banner. He has moved himself into the top 5. I don't see a lot of SPM cars tonight. I think Chris Wheel he's currently sitting 14th back there. I don't see Carson Poindexter, and obviously I'm in the booth right now, so yeah, that's your top 5 right now. Wow, I can't believe how big that wreck was.
I can't either, man. As another guy up in this top 10 now we haven't really talked about, Latham Joyner, now in 6th place in that 33 car. He did a nice job avoiding that incident, and he had a top 10 run going last week at Iowa too, but unfortunately he got caught up in a wreck there as well. Looks like William Schmidt, you see that front end damage in 7th. He was just involved in the past incident, but it looks like he's going to stay out. And a guy that's in the top 10 we haven't talked about much either, Mitch Hobbs, up there in that 89.
That is true. And Michael Bianchini, he didn't really have to car his way through the field as much because that wreck pretty much opened the door for him to get back up into this fight. And he's a couple rows deep behind, so he still has a little more work to do, but way less work than he had to do before that yellow came out. But right now, we are going to approach another green flag restart, this time with Hunter Johnson and another newcomer to the outside. That's Corey Hart in the 77. We'll take the green flag once more. Lap number 38, back green at Dover.
Yeah,
Hunter stepped on the gas really early right there.
Hey, he's been doing it all race. He's got a bit of a jump into turn number 1, but he's got a lot of blue and yellow right behind him.
Yeah, continues to file with those PPM cars. They seem to file into line. Corey Hart's lost that spot to the 49 of Sartaj Man, so he'll file together and they'll work together.
Oh, Bianchini in the wall.
Draft. Yeah, Bianchini into the outside wall. Now, drivers go around him and he doesn't get any other contact. But we stay green right now. Hunter Johnson still in the lead.
Yeah, so one car on the wall right there across the finish line. That I think was a PPM car. I'm not sure which
that was
one.
Andy McDowell back there.
Yeah, McDowell had been involved in that most recent incident as someone almost went around right there, but hopefully, fortunately keeps it going.
Yeah, you saw Kay Nackings cut off. Well, almost shoved him down, shoved that 33 down to the apron. He is all over that back bumper. He is definitely not happy with that.
Oh, another car on the wall right there. That might be Andy again.
Oh, we got a car around.
That's Nick Roten in the 26.
I think Max Yurk involved in there as well. The 73, a Mobile One Racing entry. I think both of them were involved this time around. A huge flip for that 73. He goes up and over. I see the 58. I believe that's Dominic Howe. He's involved as well. We'll take a replay. What happened there? It was coming off of the final corner there, and that wall came up quick. Kind of swallowed up a couple drivers there, and we'll take a look and see what happened. I think, huge hit into the outside wall.
Yeah, it looks like there was earlier contact in front with Joe Burigi, and looks like Hunter Rupp, and that 73 car does a kickflip right here. Whoa.
That's Chris Warner.
Yeah, Chris Warner.
Yeah, like you said, there was somebody around, I think, before Andy even hit the wall, because we saw Joe up near that outside before Chris and Nick Roten piled in, so somebody got out of shape way up at the front. See where it happened. Yeah, Hunter Rupp in the 61, I think, got turned by somebody. And there's Max go on the wall, and his teammate Nick Roten just nowhere to go. And talk about a team killer. Supreme iRenting division just took a big hit too.
Yeah, that was a huge pile up there on the front straightaway. Again, coming off of turn 4, it's a trouble spot for a lot of these drivers. They're hitting that outside wall, and since that wall comes up quick and that understeer kind of plays a factor when you're trying to get all the throttle in through those corners, that could be the result of what happened there. And you see the 61 of Hunter Rupp, it turned around, he hit the inside wall, but he was able to save it, and then they go right in front of him. And I think he had another close call there. He had it with the big one. He has another one this time around.
Yeah, and he did a good job avoiding the guys that spun around him as well. So Hunter Rupp, despite spinning and being part of the initial incident, that's 2 wrecks in a row. He's done a really good job of avoiding all the carnage. So luck definitely on that 61 side here in the late stages of this race.
So another yellow on lap number 40, I believe 41, and we'll have just 13 laps to go this time by Hunter Johnson. Continues to lead this event. You're looking at the top 5 right now. They really didn't change too much after that wreck, and you're looking at the top 5 standings as they look right now. You see Hunter Johnson, Sartaj Man, Corey Hart, Caden Atkins, and there's Jackson Menshew also up there as well, but I don't think he was initially part of that top 5. I think we'll just see what happens. I think he was just saying hi to the guys up front, and he'll peek back to where he is on the starting order right now. So we're approaching the end of this race, and as this progressed, we've seen a huge amount of yellows, huge amount of pileups with a handful of different drivers, and it has taken out a majority of pretty strong drivers that were up here in the field.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Not you.
All right. But yeah, this race got pretty flipped on its head here. Of course, Hunter's still the dominant car of the race, but second race in a row, of course, with last week that we saw Juane appear in this top 5 from pretty much out of nowhere. We'll have to see if he can keep his way up there. And now with the way this has all panned out, Latham Joyner now in that top 5 after getting himself in the top 10. So that 33 car, definitely his best run of the season up to this point. We see Christopher Weil in that pink car back there. Looks like he is in the top 10 for the first time tonight, which will put the 2 SPM cars in the field. Looks like they'll line up right behind each other.
Yeah, and one thing to know before we go green flag racing, and got an update from kind of the management room here. We are live on Speed TV, so if you're watching on the K1 Racing Network, you can also tune in to Max Speed TV's live stream. We are also on there as well. We had those issues sorted out with being on Max Speed TV, considering that this is a licensed pretty much series of Max Speed TV, and we're having it on KBRN this time around. But we are on Max Speed TV as well. So if you want to catch that action over there, you can do so. We'll be here still. We'll be here covering all the action until we reach the checkered flag. And right now, the man with the sights on that checkered flag for the second time this season and the second time in a row is Hunter Johnson. If he can go back-to-back this time at Iowa and Dover, that really sets a stand. That really sets a statement to all of these other drivers that, hey, I'm going for this championship and I'm not stopping. I can win every race, and I'm pretty much one of the most dominant cars in the field.
Oh, yeah, and I think a prior season, I don't know if it was Hunter or someone else. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dewey, if you know anything about it. One driver, I'm pretty sure, won a majority of the races, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Hunter does the same.
Yeah, I'm not sure about last season particularly, but there has been one season of iSCAR Street Stocks. I want to say it was season 4 or season 5, somewhere in that neighborhood, that Hunter won 5 of the 6 scheduled races, and Ezekiel saying season 5 and season 6 that did occur. So Hunter definitely one of the best Street Stock Series drivers we have, and according to Gabe Allen, if Hunter wins tonight, he will pass Logan Clampett in all-time iSCAR victories.
Boy, that would be a huge accomplishment for him if he can take the checkered flag tonight. And with just, I believe, 10 laps remaining, we'll take the 1 green signal this time by if the pace car gets its lights off, and it does. So we'll take the green flag this time by. And what an accomplishment that would be for Hunter Johnson if he can take the all-time win list in iSCAR with this win in his best series. You know, Hunter Johnson, a very strong driver. You saw him last Friday in the Trey Shuttlesworth Photography IndyCar series. He had a dominant run there. Of course, he was caught up in a little trouble late in the running, but nonetheless, he still proved to a lot of the other drivers that he's one of the best drivers in the series. And when it comes down to street stocks, I think everybody gets the gist of what that 12 car can do with that team so far. But again, like Iowa, he's going to have to fight off those PPM drivers who are most likely going to work together in the draft. And that's pretty much what we're going to see, and something to look out for as they take the green flag. But the pace car will line into turn 3 and 4. They'll go 2 by 2 and double up all the way around. You see the 33 and the 69. They file up in row number 3, so it's the first time they've showed up there as well. Mitch Hobbs, Kilo Hankins down in row number 4. Pace car will line off. Hunter Johnson, Sartaj Man leads the field back to
Green flag, green flag.
Another jump, not too far away this time for that 12 car. You see the 77 of Corey Hartz. A little closer than the last restart, and with the 22 of K-Nex behind them. It looks like Sartaj Man stuck on the outside. He might fall out. That's Jackson Menchu in the 69 car right behind him.
Yeah, Sartaj unfortunately did not get a good restart there, and he's dropped already 4 or 5 spots. That'll put Caden Atkins up into 3rd, and the 33 of Latham Joyner now into 4th, and into the top 5 for the first time tonight as well is that 72 of Kilo Hankins. And here we have a challenge for the lead as Corey H. Hart's trying to make the bottom work around Hunter Johnson, but Hunter holding tight on that bottom side. and it'll be a big risk if anybody tries the high side. And there's
Oh.
Caden Atkins into the inside wall, and that's going to be another huge crash here. Christopher
Oh,
Weil
my.
up and over. Menchu in there as well.
Bianchini's in there.
And they're still piling into this thing. Bianchini's barrel rolling. Jonathan Jones over the wall.
Oh my
and barrel rolling
goodness.
into the grass here. And man, another big one.
Caden Atkins got turned around, and that started a chain reaction with everyone behind them and pile up, including multiple drivers. That was Jackson Menchu. There's Christopher Weil, Michael Bianchini, who we were talking about for most of this race. He gets involved as well. And look at the huge flips by a lot of these drivers, including the 06 of Jonathan Jones, as everyone piles in.
Klein in there. There you see Jones go over the wall. A couple of our race picks, unfortunately, in that one. Yeah, I think Atkins just got hooked, unfortunately, by that 33 of Latham Juane here coming out of turn number 2. So we talked about turn 2 in the pre-race, and we finally see it here with about 8 or so laps to go. Finally reared its ugly head, and you know, when a car goes around on the backstretch at Dover like that, you have absolutely nowhere to go, and everybody piles in.
He's Kelan Hankins, obviously another wreck avoidance for him. He does escapes with little to no damage. So yeah, that's another break for him, as he's still gonna be up towards the top of the field.
Boy, Kelan Hankins was able to get around that on the outside, so he was involved in the big one, but he's not involved in this one as well. You're looking at the onboard cameras brought to you by EO Media Super Mix, among the sponsors for our onboard cameras here on KBRN. And I know the people watching at Max Speed TV aren't too familiar with what we do here at KBRN. Regardless, it's a warm welcome. We welcome everybody with open arms in that chat and that stream over there if anybody is watching. But right now, we are watching this battle for the race win. And I was watching Corey Hartz on that last restart. Boy, he was getting a huge run down the back straightaway, and the draft plays a huge factor. He was able to get that run. He tried to peek over to the outside, but it didn't quite work for him, and he was kind of hitting the reset button, trying to find a way around him. But now that we're approaching this last stint of this race on what might be the final green flag of the evening, these guys at PPM, now they're spread out. Corey Hartz is now now he has a couple drivers behind him. Kelan Hankins, Mitch Hobbs before the next PPM car, and of course Caden Atkins was involved in that wreck as well. So he's kind of out of the picture when it comes to this race win for the most part, unless pretty much everyone wrecks the entire field, and Caden Atkins is clear of that. But
Well, we've seen it twice.
yeah, we have. So I don't think it's too surprising right now. But Corey Hartz, he has some work to do, and he has to try and find a way around the bottom. It's hard to do so. You really can't really work the bottom unless you make a move down to the bottom on the straightaway, which is already hard to do because Hunter Johnson's already blocking down there. And then if you try to move him, you have the risk of potentially turning him and possibly getting yourself involved in a wreck, and that could tarnish your chase for the race win in race number 2. And you're looking at Connor Brandon in the front of the field. He's a damaged lap car. He's another proximity driver that's probably rooting for the guy right behind him to take the race win once again and give that team an extra boost in the points standings. And he's already the points leader, so that'll be an extra help for them in this series as well. So we'll take another couple laps around, and Hunter Johnson will lead the field once more to green. The PPM car behind him. We saw Connor Brandon smack the pit wall in there. Okay, another similar incident with Brian Mullen when he went over on the pit road. I think a lot of drivers are having trouble down pit road.
Well, I think Connor's might have been intentional. He's already like a bunch of laps down, and you couldn't see the front of his car. But yeah, and with that huge wreck we just had, we see some more new faces in this top 10. Of course, Corey H. Hart still in second place. Kelan Hankins now up into third. Mitch Hobbs in the 89 now up in the 4th place. And a guy we haven't mentioned a single time all night tonight, that 82 of Brendan Warwas, now in 6th place with a chance to win this thing late.
And the guys behind the top 2 cars and the rest of the top 5 behind those top 2, they're looking not only for a race win tonight, but their first iSCAR win overall. You see Kelan Hankins, he doesn't have an iSCAR win, and obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but he doesn't have one. And Mitch Hobbs, Sartaj Mann, all those guys looking for one.
Yeah, Dylan Basin picked up his first iSCAR win recently. He won the Season 2 Super Speedway Challenge finale at Talladega for his first ever win. Of course, Ryan Kendrick, 2 iSCAR championships to his name. He's won quite a few. Hunter Rupp there in the 61 looking for his first win. Max Urich there in the 62. He's looking for his first win. So this top 10, top 15, quite a few guys up here. And of course, I mentioned Joe Burgee in the pre-race came so close on Sunday night. He's up there around 12th or 14th, so you never know what can happen here in these last 3 or 4 laps.
And also there is Hunter Rupp, Andy McDowell, and Joe Burgee, who was involved in a couple incidents. He's now back up to the field, the 62 of Max Urich. He's also there as well. Then goes Klein, the 73. Those guys were involved in incidents, but considering the attrition we've had late in the running, those guys have the opportunity to get a possible top 10 out of this thing if they can challenge the guys up front. But I think pretty much the rows behind row 1, I think other than P1, continues to change. We saw a handful of drivers on that outside lane in row 1. They've had their fair share of challenging that 12 for the race lead, and they've all failed. We're going to see if that 77 of Corey Hartz is able to succeed this time around with just 4 laps remaining in this race. This could be the final stint, and if this is the final stint, this could be crucial for the race win of race number 2. Down off of turn 4, the pace car will loom off. Another good jump by the 12 of Hunter Johnson, and we're back.
And it's kind of sticking to his backbone with the 72 of Keola Hankins. We mentioned him under caution, looking under for the race lead, all the way to the apron. To block goes the 12 car of Hunter Johnson. He will keep the position, but that was a close one going into turn number 1.
Yeah, and that Corey H. Hart's machine in the 77 stuck up on the outside, so put Keola Hankins in the 72 up to second place, looking for his first career iSCAR win. There's Sartaj Mon in the 49. Hobbs trying to get down to the bottom, but cannot do it. Now nope, still up there. 2 laps to go here at Dover. Will Hunter win once again, or can Keola spoil his party and get his first win?
Those top 3 cars are all bunched up. Put him under a blanket for the race win. Corey H. Hart slides in line behind the 72 of Keola Hankins. Down the back straight, looking to the inside. Here he goes. That's another PPM car of Sartaj Man behind him to help. But into turn number 3, Keola Hankins stuck on the outside. Off of the final corner. 4 more corners around here at Dover International Raceway. 1 lap to go here in iSCAR.
Final lap for Hunter Johnson to take his second win in this season. He goes into turn 1. Charging right behind Keola Hankins, trying to make a run for the race win on the back straightaway. He couldn't do it on the outside, and we'll see what happens. Down the back straightaway, all the way to the apron. One final time into turn 3 and 4. They're loose around. Corey Hart saves it, but Hunter Johnson, he's going to go back-to-back wins for Hunter Johnson. He gets it done at Dover.
That's the 3rd time that Hunter Johnson has won at least 2 street stock races in a row. Of course, Season 4 and Season 5 won 5 in a row, and now he's won the first 2 here in Season 10. So an absolutely dominating start here, and I think we have a clear-cut championship favorite as we're a third of the way in now.
Proximity with another win. Go ahead, Charlie.
And that was a race going into turn number 3. I guess Corey Hart and Keola Hankins both put the back bumper to the cars in front of them and almost lost it, but good job to those 2 cars for saving it. And wow, that was a fantastic last run to the finish.
Corey Hart's tried everything he could, but he just could not get to the back bumper of the 12. And with that pressure with the 72 right behind him, it was even harder as they were going loose into turn 3 and 4. But Proximity Racing adds another win to the resume under Hunter Johnson's name. He takes the win at Dover. He burns it down in front of the stands on the front straightaway. And with that, we'll take a look at your results from Dover International Raceway in race number 2. Hunter Johnson, of course, with the 2nd straight win of Season 10. Corey Hart lines up right behind him in the first entry of PPM. Keola Hankins finishes just short of the race win in 3rd. Then goes Sartaj Man. Dylan Basin rounds out the top 5. Then goes Brandon Warwalls with another good finish. He had a stealthy approach at the end of the race, but he was able to keep himself up there at the end. Hunter Rupp, who was involved in a handful of incidents, he picks up 7th. Mitch Hobbs, Ryan Kendrick, Andy McDowell round out the top 10 tonight.
Joe Burgee finishes 11th here. Latham Joyner finishes 12th. Dane Cruz, 13th. Good rebound for him. Nick Miller, also a good rebound, finishes just 14th position. Chris Warner, 15th. William Schmidt in that 79 car finishes 16th. Caden Atkins, that 22 car finishes 17th. Peter Kenny, 18th. Dominic Howe, 19th. And Michael Bianchini will round out your top 20 here at Dover.
Yeah, unfortunately for Bianchini, had a good strong run going from the pole, but that pit stop strategy unfortunately did not pan out. 21st through 30th, Jeremiah Bethune, George Talsma, Matthew Klein. So our Ask KBRN turns out to be a no here tonight. He does not finish in the top 20. Ibrahim Dejani, 24th. Christopher Weil, who saw up there towards the top 10, got involved in that late race flip, 25th. Jackson Menchu, 26th. Jonathan Jones, who flipped over the inside wall, finishes 27th. Nick Roten, 28th. Harry Grindle in 29th. And rounding out your top 30, Cade McKee in the 27.
Falling out of the top 30 is the 44 of Liam Sheen, who got involved in a handful of incidents, and also Chase Sponsor, Aaron Maroney. Those guys are making charges for that race lead in the top 5 early in the running. They finished 23 laps down for Liam Sheen and Chase Sponsor, 24 for Aaron Maroney. Then goes Connor Brandon, Scott Yost, Mark Frimpong, Brian Mullen in the 17, and Brayson Collins finishes the final rounding order in 38th, 47 laps down. And with that, Hunter Johnson has, I believe, tied or beat, correct me if I'm wrong, Logan Clampett for the all-time win list in iSCAR. So a good accomplishment for him and that proximity team to be at the top of the win list in iSCAR. When we come back, we'll have more action from the Dover International Speedway. We'll have the top 5 interviews and check with the winner, Hunter Johnson, on his second win of the season in Season 10. So we'll take a moment to step aside. You're watching the iSCAR KBRN Street Stock Tour live from the Dover International Speedway and the Monster Mile. Welcome back to Dover and what has been a wild night here at the racetrack. And Hunter Johnson picks up his second straight win of Season 10, adds another win to his resume in what has been a fantastic run in the street stocks for him and Proximity Racing. We're going to bring him into the booth. Hunter Johnson, welcome to the MaxB TV or KBRN studios, if you will. You got a copy with us?
Yeah, I got you.
Hunter, you are a back-to-back winner in Season 10. You've pretty much put yourself as a staple among that iSCAR win list. Just tell us how that feels to get the victory here.
It's pretty good. I was kind of concerned at the beginning. I was Michael set a pretty fast lap, but I was able to get to his inside at one point on one of the restarts, and then it was kind of had it locked in from there. I mean, there was certainly points where I had to do some blocking to make sure I kept the lead, but cautions fell pretty nicely so that I wasn't under pressure too much, and then had to hold on there at the end. I was able to pick it up, so yeah.
Well, you mentioned blocking, and you were blocking a handful of guys in those final laps. You were blocking Corey Hartz and Kilo Hankins among the likes of those drivers. Was there any sort of concern going down the back straightaway, knowing that maybe you might get moved to the race win, or maybe what was going through your mind on that final lap?
Well, on that final restart, I have to apologize to Kaloa because I missed the shift and I kind of blocked him pretty hard. He was able to keep, and I don't know if that allowed Corey to get in front of him, but I think he was still on the bottom. But I knew going down the backstretch that Corey was going to try to at least get under me into turn 3, and I knew I had to, even if I drifted up in turn 3, I knew I had to hold the bottom, or else I would have probably gotten turned. So we were able to get that done and able to pick it up.
All right, Hunter. Well, another great win for you and that Proximity Racing team. Before we let you go, you got any sponsors or teams you want to thank for making tonight happen back to back?
I have to thank you guys for broadcasting and also Proximity Racing.
All right, Hunter. Well, we congratulate you on an ecstatic win here at Dover International Raceway. We hope to see you next week down in Darlington with a little style. And we hope to see you put on some good laps there and hopefully go 3 in a row.
All right, thank you.
Hunter Johnson out of the booth. He wins tonight's action here at Dover. We're going to take a second to check in with Corey Hart. Charlie is there with the interview, P2.
Yes, sir.
Well, Corey, oh so close to a victory here, and obviously a last-ditched effort to try to move him for the win in the final corner. Is there anything you could have done differently to try to get the race win here today?
Well, in the position I was in, if I had a teammate behind me, yes, I think I probably could have gotten up to him and basically done a replay of what happened at Charlotte last season. But because the way that the way that Hunter was staying right on the bottom, it was nothing he was doing wrong. It's just racing. Like I was gonna get a bad entry to the corner, so I could try to go up the track and get a better entry and maybe slide in there and get on his bumper. But then I'm leaving the door open for a kilo behind me. So either way, I was in a rough position. And if I think if I had a teammate behind me, if Sartaj or Caden were behind me, I probably could have gotten a push and gotten into him. And like I said, done a replay basically of Charlotte last season, but didn't quite work out. But second ain't a bad finish. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned your teammates. We saw almost a sea of yellow and blue back there. Do you think that having all those teammates behind you really helped out to try to get to the front?
Yeah, a little bit. Some of them are a little bit more willing to help out than others. But just having us all being able to communicate with each other, and in the end being able to at least work with each other for the most part, is definitely helpful. So yeah.
All right, well, Corey, we appreciate you coming out here and racing the iSCAR KBRN Street Stock Series, and a good performance for you, good second place finish with some teammates behind you. So thanks for coming out here tonight. Before we let you go, do you have any teams or sponsors that you want to thank?
Well, Corey Hart's Media. Other than that, just my teammates. Thanks to them for working together.
All right, well, Corey, we hope to see you next week, and we wish you the best of luck there, man.
Yep, thank you.
That's Corey Hart sliding himself out of the booth here. Good second place finish for him. We're going to go down with Dewey, who's going to interview Keela Hankins for the third position.
All right, Kiloa, got a copy?
I do indeed.
Man, you came up just short once again, rounding yourself out in third tonight. But you started yourself back in 23rd, so a solid night for you for sure overall. Do you think you had anything at the end there for Hunter and Corey, or do you think you'd given them all you had?
I mean, at that point, like with 2 to go, I think the one thing I probably could have regretted was going high off the corner. I thought Corey was to my inside. I thought he was like trying to pass me, and I got a little wide off the corner with 2 to go after Hunter blocked me, which I mean he should have. He's doing what he can to keep the position. I mean, I'm not mad at Hunter for that. But that was probably like the one mistake I had. I let Corey in front of me, and yeah, I was just trying to push Corey into Hunter's bumper on the final lap there, but it just didn't work out. Like I don't know if I got him loose or he got loose, but yeah, that just ended our momentum, and Hunter just won.
Yeah, Hunter said in his interview just now he missed a shift on the restart and had to block you to not lose the position. He said he apologized for it, and I would definitely put stock in that. But I mean, hey man, you've had 2 pretty solid finishes here to start off your street stock season. You think you have anything to try and catch him in points?
I mean, if I'm gonna have like anything for Hunter in the Street Stock Championship, I think I'm like gonna have to pray that he gets wrecked out and stuff because he won Iowa, he won Dover, so I mean he's just had a really good season so far. And there's also like some really fast guys like Latham Joyner and Corey Hartz and like Andy McDowell and Connor Brandon. Like they're all fast in the street stock too. So if I want to be serious in competing for the championship, I think I'll have to put in like time and effort to like practice on getting a good qualifying lap because that seems to be my weak spot.
Well, time to get cracking because we're going to Darlington next week, which is going to be one hell of a show here for these street stocks, man. Hey, before I let you go, any sponsors you want to thank here for tonight?
I would like to thank you guys for broadcasting. I mean, it seems like almost every time the KBRN Racing Network broadcasts, I end up getting like a top 3 or something along those lines. So that's probably been a really good luck charm. I would like to thank SPM Racing. They're a great group of guys. You know, Dewey and Rick for owning it, and like Carson, Chris Wheel, and Charlie for being great teammates along the way. And I would like to thank whatever was on the sponsor of my car, Snuggle. I felt like I did a good enough job of snuggling into some cars tonight. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, that's all. Thanks for the interview.
Well, you snuggled yourself into a top 3 finish here tonight. Kiloa Hankins rounds himself out in 3rd. Hope to see you back here tomorrow and for the rest of the series, bud.
All right.
Kiloa Hankins finishes 3rd in that snuggle car. He really had to hug that bear tight when it comes to going down those crashes. That was insane. He finishes 3rd. We'll look back into P number 4, and that will find the 49 of Sartaj, man. We'll bring him into the booth, see what he thinks about his night tonight. Sartaj, welcome to the booth. You got a copy? Hey, Sartaj, this is Kenneth Bueno. Oh, you got us?
Yes, I got you.
All right, Sartaj. Well, you finished P4. It was a calamity-filled night. You were working well with your PPM teammates there. Tell us how that really looked in your perspective going down to the end of that run.
Well, I feel like it would have been a much better finish for me if the restart before that I didn't miss a shift and I dropped back, I think all the way back to 9th. But I got bailed out because of a caution, but it came at the expense of a teammate wrecking. But on that final few laps, I was just trying to push as hard as I could, maybe try to get the Kiloa's back bumper and move him out of the way maybe, but I'm happy with a 4th place finish after considering I started 20th, having to make my way all the way up through the field, but I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and you mentioned carving your way through the field, and you started P20 near the middle end of that field, and that field was all bunched up together on every single restart. And of course, we saw the huge wrecks that happened as a result of all those guys together. Was there anything that you really saw that really kind of caught your eye when it came down to everybody crashing?
Well, it was just people aggressively blocking, and some people just don't know how to block, and I don't know. It's just a consequence of aggressive blocking, and that's just what happens.
All right, sorry, Taj. Well, good top 5 finish for you tonight here at Dover. Before we let you go, you got any sponsors or teams you want to thank for making tonight happen?
Yeah, I would just like to thank PPM, and I would also like to thank y'all for broadcasting this race.
Well, we thank you for...
Because Keyboy couldn't make it on time, so yeah.
Well, we thank you for taking your time out, and we appreciate your support, and we thank you for putting on a great show down there at the racetrack. So we'll let you go. Thank you for joining us in the booth. We hope to see you next week at Darlington with a little throwback flair.
All right, thank you.
Sartaj, man, out of the booth, he finishes 4th, and I think we don't have 5th and 6th lining up in the waiting room, so I think we'll just take a look back as the 61 of Hunter Rupp. He's in the waiting room, so we'll take his perspective on what happened. I know he was involved in a wreck, so that will be an interesting call. Charlie, you got the interview.
Oh. Okay, Hunter, and I guess I'm interviewing you now. Into the booth, you got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, Hunter finished 7th here, just inside the top 10. We saw you were in a little bit of trouble here. So, you think that top 10 you think that top 10 was redeeming? Oh boy, do you think that top 10 was redeeming for you?
Well, we started 30th because well, my dumb self hit the apron off of 4 on the second lap, and it didn't count because it spun. And yeah, we are basically just fighting that all day, working our way up through the field. Saw a couple of familiar faces throughout the way. Me, Mitch, Joe, William, all of us kind of just moved all the way up, and yeah, the gates opened, and glad to get a top 10 out of it, but there were some scary moments in between.
Yeah, well, a crazy race for sure, and we appreciate you coming out here running the race with us, and we hope to see you next week at Darlington. A little bit of a throwback flair, as Kenneth said, so we'll see you there. But before I let you go, do you have any teams or sponsors that you want to thank?
I'll read the side of the car. I wish we could say that we had some, but that 61 Mercedes-Benz is willing to take anybody on for some sponsorship, so hopefully that run might attract some attention. Maybe a team or a sponsor, I don't know, but we'll keep on chugging for the rest of the season, try to keep those up.
All right, well, we'll see you next week, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Want to wrap out of the booth here, and I think that's going to wrap up our interviews here tonight. Kenneth, trackside to finish us off.
Yeah, we had an insane night here at Dover, and I was just about to ask you guys, since we've got all the interviews up with all the drivers in the waiting room, what do we really expect from tonight's action? Was it really what we thought it was, or was it kind of a different stigma?
You know, it's not really surprising to me that, this track is really tight and these street stocks are so weavy, I guess you can say, that we got those really big wrecks. So it doesn't really surprise me at all, especially with this track car combo. But I think one thing to be taken away from tonight is Hunter Johnson is definitely a threat for the championship, and he's almost untouchable, leading almost every single lap of the last 2 races, and finishing both of them off for a win. So my takeaway from tonight is Hunter Johnson is the favorite for the championship.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take a lot to flag down that 12 car. I think there'll be a couple guys that could try and make a run at him, but it's going to take probably him wrecking out of each of the last 4 races for anyone to really have a chance to catch up to him. We'll have to see how that all shakes out. But next week, we've got a really interesting track, just like Dover. We're going to Darlington for these street stocks. So just like a track like Dover, where you wouldn't really expect street stocks to run at them, Darlington's definitely going to throw an interesting flair into what this street stock series has been, in addition to, I'm sure, the throwback schemes we'll see. So another track that these guys will have to adjust to. But in terms of tonight, it was pretty much what I thought it was going to be. We got that turn 2 wreck on the backstretch that I was expecting from the drop of the green flag. And those big ones we had were pretty run-of-the-mill, I guess, for Dover. And looks like Hunter Johnson was able to keep himself up front and avoided all that carnage and scored himself back-to-back wins. And just as Charlie said, I think he's the favorite as well.
Yeah, I was just about to mention next week, and next week will be an interesting race for sure. We head down south to Darlington Raceway in South Carolina, where we'll get a little bit of retro racing in there. We'll see all the throwback colors, giving tributes to drivers and teams of times gone by. So that'll be next week right here, not here on KBRN, but on Max Speed TV. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be right here. You'll find Ezekiel Reyes, of course, Dewey Schramm in the booth with us, and I believe myself will be in the booth as well. Not taking the main role, just be a little side role, but you'll find us in the booth for that action when it comes down to next week. But we thank you for having us here on a quick broadcast from KBRN, and we thank everybody. We thank Ezekiel Reyes for giving us the opportunity to kind of broadcast and show ourselves a little bit to the wider audience of Max Speed TV. So we appreciate everybody watching the stream here for tonight's broadcast. And for everyone down at Max Speed TV, for everyone at the K1 Racing Network, for everyone here at iSCAR, for Charlie Baier, Dewey Schramm, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from Dover International Speedway. We take it back in time next week at Darlington. Good night.
Wear a mask.